Chapter 1. Valtu. I write this down because I don't trust Bram to write his novel without twisting my story around. I'd seen the wheels turning in his head in that peculiar way writers get when an idea starts taking off on them like an ornery horse. I'm sure the countless days and nights we spent together in Cruden Bay, where I opened myself up and poured my heart out to him, paled in comparison to what Mr. Stoker's brain could conjure up. Thus, I'm not relying on his tale to be accurate in any way, shape, or form. He told me his title is The Undead. I was hoping it would be called Valtu, or Count Aminoff. Besides, over the centuries, my memories have begun to fade. I used to pray for the day I would forget all the pain, for the day I could burn my memories of her to ash. But I know that one day I will have to remember her. To forget her would be to forget what it's like to be human, and I'm dangerously close to losing myself altogether at times. And so I will write down all I remember of her, in hope that our love might bring about my humanity. One can only dream. I have been doing a lot of dreaming. The Great Wrath, 1714, the Kingdom of Sweden, the land currently known as Finland. I waited for her that morning like a starving man for a crust of bread. Nothing would ease my hunger, not the sunshine on my face, the call of the meadowlarks from the thicket, nor the wind rustling my humble field of wheat, all things that would normally bring me pleasure, even on the saddest of days. Mina. Even her name felt like a song, like an answer from God to make up for a past awash with grief. Losing my first wife, Anna, and a child we never had a chance to name, then having the country invaded by the enemy, the burning of Helsinki, then most of my land taken away from me, even all of that felt trivial when I thought about Mina. She was my redemption, my second chance at life. She was a salve on the deepest wounds of my existence, and those wounds ran deep. Even the harsh reality of this new world didn't have a chance against the way she made me feel, the hope she brought me. If I thought about it even for a moment, I would have known how impossible our love was, how there was no future for us, not when I was a lowly farmer, just a peasant in his mid-30s, and she was the daughter of the general, the very monster who took over the countryside and made it his. But I never dug deeper. I didn't want to think. I was content to live on the surface of love, letting it sweep me from one day to the next on an unyielding current. No fear of the turbulent water and jagged rocks that lay ahead, ready to flay me to pieces. The sound of hoofbeats came from beyond the line of birch trees, and a flock of starlings suddenly flew above the leaves, frightened by Mina's approach. I was standing at the start of the forest, my cottage barely visible from around the bend. If anyone else were to approach, they would come along the road, not from behind through the birch and berry shrubs, where there was no trail. That's how I knew it was her. I found myself running now to meet her, leaving my wheat field behind and disappearing into the trees. I was almost to the pond, our meeting place, when I saw her horse between the tree trunks, the eyes on the white bark watching me, perhaps even judging me. Mina was cloaked, her grey hood covering her head, and I watched in awe as she lifted it off, her face becoming visible. She saw me approach and smiled, so joyful that it nearly brought me to my knees. She would always be the most beautiful woman I had ever seen.